Well, it was quite the election day with a number of ridings still undecided at this point and some unhappy campers in Alberta. Tell you what, we're joined by political commentator Brian Lilley of the Toronto Sun. Good to have you with us, Brian.
Good to be with you, Paul.
You bet. All of us fighting a lack of sleep right now, but we'll do our best. Hey, not only a loss for the Conservatives, but Pierre Poilievre himself losing his seat to Liberal candidate Bruce Fanjoy. Now, Brian, you've lived in Ottawa for years, and you know that riding and Poilievre very well. So how surprised are you at this?
Very surprised.
Yeah.
I used to live right on the border of that riding. Pierre Poilievre was my MP when he was first elected. Boundaries have changed though, and that's part of it. So you've got a few things going on. Boundaries of the riding have changed. A bit more of a suburban demographic moving in the western part of the riding. You had a big push by the Liberals to win. You had this swing among voters towards Mark Carney. But I do have to give some credit to Bruce Fanjoy, who I have not met, but showed up 18 months to 2 years ago and said, I'm going to take down Pierre Poilievre and I'm running to win. And I thought, okay, that's a lot of bravado. He put in the hard work. It obviously paid off, ahead by thousands.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, that just totally surprised me. I thought, okay, if he's going to win, it's going to be narrow, squeaky, but no. Man, okay. So what's next for Pierre Poilievre, by the way? I mean, he's saying he wants to stay on, right? So that he's got to get a seat. So there's going to be a by-election somewhere called, I guess, who's the sacrificial lamb here? Any
Well,
thoughts?
hold on. There's a lot of possibilities here. Remember, the Conservatives, they adopted the Reform Act, which means the caucus can decide to remove the leader if they want. I don't think the grassroots will want to remove the leader, but is there a caucus revolt? There was a caucus revolt that helped push Aaron O'Toole out and allow Pierre Poilievre to become leader, and a lot of Poilievre's key allies, including Alberta MPs like Shannon Stubbs and Chris Warkenden, they were part of that. Is there going to be a different faction to try and push out Poilievre? We have to watch for that.
Oh, man.
So, we have to see, is there an ambitious MP somewhere that wants to say, you know what, you failed, I can do it. I don't think we're going to see a push from the outside from Ontario Premier Doug Ford or anything like that, but, because there's been lots of chatter about that. But there could be a push against Poilievre. I think that the party establishment is behind him. The grassroots is with him. We'll see how the rest plays out. But yeah, he could end up having to do a by-election somewhere. But if Carleton's not safe, where is?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, wow, okay. Mark Carney winning his seat right close to where Poilievre lost, so he'll be getting his seat in the House of Commons, and he's promising he's going to be standing firm against the Americans, but if it's only a minority, can he actually do that?
It's going to be more difficult for him. Look, I did not want a liberal government. I think anybody that's watched me over the years on Bridge City News understands that. But Canada needed a majority government, one way or the other, coming out of this election, because whoever is going to negotiate with Trump needs to show up with a position of strength. And what does Trump like to measure? Everything. And he's going to look and he's going to say, you don't have a mandate. You don't have the cards. You only have a minority. The people aren't with you. Those are the sorts of things that Trump will be doing with Carney now that he is the prime minister and is going to be heading to Washington or engaging in negotiations.
Yeah, he's a smart cookie. So I think, yeah, you're probably right. He'll use all of those things to his advantage to try to get some leverage over Canada, over Carney, and so forth. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out on how Trump handles this with the minority. And of course, with the election over, I guess we got to get back to business here. So when does Parliament return? And will we see some quick government action on some of those key promises?
One thing we're going to have to see quick government action on is a budget. So expect the budget before the end of June. So it takes about 2 weeks at least for the writs to be returned and certified. After that, you can have a swearing in, you can have cabinet appointed. But 60 days after the writs are returned, you have to pass a budget. The government has been not passed a money bill since last December. They were scheduled to run out of money on March 31st, but because the election was called, the government runs on what's called special warrants. And I know some people got really angry during the election saying, look, all this spending's just been approved. The government's not even sitting. That's just standard, already approved spending that's allowed to continue at the same rate. And that's what that was. But that ends 60 days after the end of the election, which is in about 2 weeks' time when the results are certified. So we've got to have a budget passed by the middle of July. I expect it will be done sometime in June. And Poilievre had said he would make the MPs sit over the summer in the House of Commons. We'll see if Carney does that, or does he prefer governing without supervision of members of Parliament?
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. Okay. I mean, he loves big government. I mean, and that seems obvious, so we'll see what happens. Liberals thinking they might make a breakthrough in Alberta. That did not happen. Anything, Carney could do to kind of, he's saying, okay, I want to represent all voters, from across the country and so forth. Alberta, a bit of a tough job, huh?
Yeah, well, with Alberta growing to 37 seats from 34, there was talk, oh, maybe some of those other ones, they're urban. Maybe they'll go to the NDP. Well, that didn't happen. Maybe they'll go to the Liberals. Liberals stuck with two, which is what they had before, one in Edmonton, one in Calgary. Uh, Now, what could Carney do? He could say, look, these five demands from the energy sector, these demands from Premier Smith. Yes, I'm not going to give you all of them. I'm not going to give you everything you want, but there's something here that we can find agreement on. He could get rid of the emissions cap. Unfortunately, he's defended that. He could get rid of the industrial carbon tax. The things he needs to do, I think he has to go against type. He has to go against where he has been campaigning from to show good faith. We'll see if he can do that. That would be true leadership. It would annoy people within his party, but it is the right thing to do for national unity, which is something I'm very much concerned about at the moment.
Oh, for sure. I mean, how is, Premier Danielle Smith going to respond to this? Doesn't sound, like she's terribly excited about a Mark Carney government, and we will likely see a big push from the independence movement, right?
Yeah, look, I think most of polling shows most Albertans want to stay in Canada, but you also want respect, and you haven't been getting respect from Ottawa for a long time. This guy says he's a Westerner. Well, show it. Show some respect, and that means putting some water in his wine, not yours.
All right. Well, of course, the NDP, a big story here. Man, I mean, what a collapse. Jagmeet Singh, of course, giving up the leadership here. And so we'll see what happens, who takes it over and that sort of thing. But, I mean, less than 10% of the popular vote. This was, was it worse than you thought it would be?
Yes, if the NDP had gotten up to 9, 10%, that would have really helped the Conservatives with some of these vote splits. Now, I'll give you an idea. Here in Ontario, the Conservatives got 44% of the popular vote. That in a normal election gets you a super majority. That's more than Doug Ford got in the Ontario provincial election, and he won 80 seats. So, but the NDP collapsed down to 4.9%, and the Liberals were just ahead of the Conservatives in the popular vote, but they took 60% of the seats in the province. So it's those vote splits. Had the NDP been a bit higher, the Conservatives maybe they wouldn't have won the most seats in Ontario, but they might have won a lot more, and they might be the ones forming the minority government at the moment. All of these things are factors that nobody really foresaw. Nobody saw the NDP going down to 1% of the vote in Carleton, where Pierre Poilievre lost his seat. BC uh, is normally an NDP stronghold. They've only got 3 seats there. Ontario, they used to have 5. They've got 0. They kept 1 in Alberta. And for a good chunk of last night, that was the only seat the NDP was leading or elected, and it was in Alberta. That was funny to watch, but total and utter collapse of the party, and most of that vote falling in behind Mark Carney and the Liberals. And it's tough to compete against that when you look at the results that the Conservatives were able to bring about in so much of the country.
Whoever inherits that leadership job man, he's got a lot of work ahead of him or her. Majority minority still up for grabs. So, if it is minority, will we see the Conservatives dance with the bloc and potentially bring Carney's government down at some point? I'm running out of time here, but how long do you think this minority government, if that's what it is, will last, I guess?
I'm the NDP's broke, so they don't want to do anything. The Bloc's happy that they got 24 seats. People always project very short minorities. I've been covering them since 2004. I don't see a very short minority. We're probably in it for a year minimum, possibly two.
Okay, year two. All right. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.